Hi, this is Brian, and here we are. We're a little over 25,000 backers and over $1.1 million so far in Kickstarter in just about a week. So, good news. That's great. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate that. And I've got a lot of questions from you. Some of them will be solicited out on the forums and then from Twitter or whatnot that people want to have more information. I can't believe it on what we're doing here. So, in no particular order, let me kind of jump around and answer some of the questions because I know the video, everybody loved it, but they were kind of wondering what it meant in terms of gameplay. I think one of the first questions people asked is, what the hell is a blobber? And it was kind of funny, before I started this thing, I wasn't that familiar with the term myself. It was called a dungeon crawl, but a blobber, if you hear that term, is when you're represented by you're basically a group of adventurers, 4, 6, 7, whatever the number is, and you don't see your person when you're wandering around the environment. You're a sort of a blob, and that's where the phrase comes from. And so, if you'll know in the video, when we're first moving through the forest and we're moving through the dungeon, that is the perspective that you will be playing the game through when you are exploring. You will not be seeing your party. You're completely immersed into just wandering around the universe. There was no HUD on that video, so we'll give you the option to bring up some HUD elements or take them down depending on your play style. But the general movement is that you are moving through this environment sort of wholly and not seeing your characters while you're doing so. So the next sort of a phase of the game, and there's two major phases, of course. One is exploring, and the other is combat, where you're going to be spending a lot of your time. So the question is then, what happens to the camera during the combat phase, or am I going to be just in that same sort of blobosphere? So there's basically two ways we're looking at this. One is that we stay with a more traditional sense of you not seeing your characters represented. Perhaps we'll bring up portraits or there'll be HUD elements regardless to let you see your characters, what their health is, and other attributes that you need to know about. Or we've considered bringing the camera back slightly so you can then see your party in the camera. But it's the same basic gameplay of me controlling a group of people, all attacking and going back and forth with the other side. Whether we pull that camera back just a little bit is very much dependent on the budget of where we finally end up, because in order to create the graphics for all of those characters, and then also create all the graphics for all the armor, the sword, the shields, and all the things that you can get, that's a pretty expensive proposition, and so we're not going to commit to that till we know where we end up at the end. But regardless, the flow of the combat's going to work either way the same way. So the next kind of big question I get is kind of what the hell is phase based, and how does that relate to, say, a Wasteland or the original Bard's Tale? So typically speaking, and people use a lot of different semantics for describing the same things in this business, but the way we look at phase based is basically that our entire side makes its decisions, and then the other side goes after that, and we go back and forth. So the original Bard's Tale, you would attack, use, evade, whatever it was. You'd go through your party, you'd hit return, and you'd wait for those results to happen. That isn't really what we want to do. We want to make it a little more dynamic than that. So the difference being, we'll still choose our side, all of the commands for our side, whether it's attack or use or defend or whatever the case may be, but there may be things that are happening on the play field that make you want to change it up. So for example, if I attack and I kill the guy, for example, my second guy who would have normally attacked is now going to change the thing that he was going to do. And the third one, based upon whether he maybe interrupted a spell, now that might make my cleric, for example, take a different tact for what he was going to do based upon what happened from the first two people. So that you're not waiting to the very end of the turn in order to see what happens. You're sort of dynamically deciding what you want to do during combat. So the next question I got is how many party members will there be in the game? And it really wouldn't be a classic Bard's Tale type dungeon crawl if you weren't representing an entire group. And so you've got, whether it's your bard or your conjurer or your rogue or your priest, whatever it is that your party makeup is, there'll be 4 slots for that. Then there's a 5th slot for CNPCs that you meet and can join the party during your travels. and then the sixth slot is for summon creatures. So if you want to summon a wind ogre into the party, you can do so. And so basically, you'll be sort of at a max capacity. You'll be controlling 6 different character types and people during combat. The next question is whether the game will be featuring wandering monsters like the old games, random encounters, or the battles take place only in predefined situations. And no, there'll absolutely be random encounters. We don't like to throw a lot of trash mobs at you, so we kind of keep it so it's at least we're being smart about it. But there will be predefined situations for sure that require a lot of strategic effort, and then there's going to be random encounters that keep you on your toes. So the other big question that we get is whether you can save the game anywhere or not, or whether you have to save it only in the Adventurers Guild. In the original Bard's Tale, one of the tensions that was created was that it was a long way between you and the Adventurers Guild, so you could travel for 5-6 hours and then die and then lose all of your progress. I think that's a little too punishing for this day and age, but we're not going to go to the other side of it where you can just save the game anywhere you want. We're gonna create that sort of time tension. And on top of it, we're sort of working on some mechanics, so we don't have all the answers for it yet, but kind of the overall concept that if I'm going to spend some time taking a risk and I'm going to go further into the world beyond what was safe to do, if there's a reward for doing that, then we want to put it there. On the other hand, if you put a couple hours extra in and you get killed and you have to then lose that time, that you blame yourself because you made the decision to probably push on further than you needed to. So I think that tension of time and risk and reward is something that we still want to keep, but we're not going to be so draconian as to make it where you have to go all the way back to the Adventure Guild just to save. So the next question is whether you can use your spells outside of combat, and very much so. One of the things that you heard us talk about in the pitch was there was a little game called The Room, which we really loved on iOS. Big plug for those guys. Check it out if you haven't. And then also we had our little GIF you could saw of our sword where you could manipulate the thing. And so the whole idea about manipulating both your inventory but also the environment itself is going to be done primarily with your spells. So the very same spell which is used to say a levitate, which you'll use in combat to float people up so they perhaps miss an attack, is the exact same spell you would use to help solve a puzzle by lifting something over another thing, for example, and solving it. So yeah, absolutely, you'll be using the spells within the environment in addition to combat. Okay, so for the storyline, first, you do not have to have played the original trilogy to sort of go from where Bard's Tale 4 starts. However, if you did play it, we're very much going to recognize everything that's been done before, and we're going to play on all the themes and all the people that were there. So this takes place about 150 years into the future. It's a return to Scar Bray, and there's a the first fundamental question is, why were these wizards so obsessed with Scar Bray? There must have been a reason for it. So there's going to be some exploration of that, but that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg for where it's going. So it absolutely is going to retain all the things from the Bard's Tale trilogy universe and expand upon it and answer a bunch of questions that were not really answered in the first ones. Character customization will be similar to the first Bard's Tales. That's a big part of this kind of role-playing game. So you'll choose your class, you'll choose your race, you'll choose your gender, you'll create your character from scratch, all your characters from scratch, if that is what you wish to do. And then in addition, one of the things we really liked about the original Bard's Tale series is not everything was available in the beginning either. For example, the Archmage, you had to master 3 levels of spells from other magician classes before you could switch over to an Archmage. We like that kind of thing, that not everything's available, like I said, at launch, of creating your character. And so we'll be doing the same thing, not just with the magician or spell casting classes, but also with the warrior classes and some of the other ones. All right, so in closing, keep the questions coming. I'm going to try to do this more often. I've got some time free, and I want to make sure that I'm getting all the information to you guys. We love making these games, and so we really, really appreciate the support. And so please keep spreading the word. And I will say one other thing: the video that you'll see, we're gonna have some more details on that, but that was not pre-rendered. That was all in real time, and so you'll be seeing some more on that this week also. Okay? Anyway, I appreciate the support. Thank you.